Hello, welcome once again to my fashion class today. And today I want to show you how to cut an off-shoulder dress, an off-shoulder flare dress with a belt. So for this tutorial, you'll need 3 yards of ankara or African print fabric. So what I have on my table is the ankara print. You will need your scissors, your chalk, and your ruler. So if you're new to my channel, this is Style with Ufoma Omoluru, and I show you my own way of cutting different styles. Basically, I love using ankara print. So today, the 3 yards I have is already placed on the table, and I am going to fold this in a way you will fold a flare. If you don't know how to cut a flare, I have a video that I uploaded some time back. You can check that out. So you need to fold your fabric into 2, like I've done, lengthwise. Then you're also going to fold 1 small into 2 to make like a square. If you're using English fabric, you may want to use 2.5 meters because the English fabric have longer length. So make sure your folded fabric is equal, even at the ends. After folding in 2, you want to fold again triangularly. So 3 yards can cut a flare dress for any size. So once you folded in a triangular fashion, what you want to ascertain now is your bust measurement. So the flare you cut at the top, the circumference of the flare has to be commensurate with your bust. So for this tutorial, I'll be cutting a size 14. So a size 14 bust is between 40 and 41. If it's US, it's size 12. If it's UK, it's between size 14 and 16. So I'm just going to rule to check where I'm going to have about 40 inches. That means I'm going to get 10 inches on the fold, but when opened, it becomes 40. So I just use my ruler to be able to ascertain that point. Then once I've done that, the next thing I'm going to do is use my tape to cut more accurately, to measure more accurately from the pointed tip, like you will cut your regular flare. So I'm checking to make sure that the what I have is up to 40 inches plus 1 inch for my seam allowance. So now it's all right. If it's not okay, you can move downwards or move upwards if it's too big. Now, depending on how much frills you want in front, you can cut a wider flare. But I don't want much frills. So what I did was to cut 44 inches. So 11 plus 1, which is 46. That's 11.5 inches. So from the top now, I'm going to take off 8 inches. Normally, for your off shoulder, you take off 5 inches from the top or 6 inches, but because I'm going to be adding a band at the top, hence I'm taking off 8 inches. So I start measuring my flare from 8 inches on my measuring tape. So from 8 inches, I'm going to measure the length of my dress, and I want my dress to be 38 inches. So I'm going to be cutting 40 inches. So 8 off, then I'm going to look for the 40 inches mark on the flare. So you just keep moving your tape all around until you're able to get the 40 inches all around the base. What this does is that it helps keep the base even and well-rounded. So now I've done that, and I'm going to cut off the flare, and whatever is left I'm going to keep to cut the band for the top of the flared dress. So when you're cutting your flared dress, what the circumference on top depends on your bust. So now it's opened, you can see. So the next thing I will do is to fold backwards, and I'm going to make like an armhole by the sides. Before you start doing that, you fold properly, make sure the ends are even. So what I'm going to do is take 3 inches from the side, okay, 3 inches from the side to create the armhole. Then the depth of the armhole, I'm also going to be using 2.5 inches. So on top you have 3 inches, downwards you have 2.5 inches. So this creates like an armhole. If you cut it too deep, you have an armhole that is too wide. So you want to be careful. For a bigger size, like from size 18, you can try to do 3 inches depth and the 3 inches from the side. So now I want to notch, or I need to mark where I'm going to fix my pocket. So depending on your size as well, it can be anything from between 17 inches and 19 inches. But I'm going to be using 18 inches for this. Depending on your height, you can use 19 inches. So you don't want your pocket too low and you don't want it too high either. So now that's done. We have the top of the dress, okay, and we have the armhole. So if you want to have some frills in the middle, all you need to do is to sew around the center or the middle part of the dress, and you're going to pull the frills, and it's going to gather that a little. So if it depends on how much frills you want, then you may need to cut the circumference of your dress or the top part of your dress larger than normal. But I just want tiny folds. So at the end of the day, what I'm going to have on top is going to be about 15 inches wide. So for a size 12 to 16, having one end to the other end after you ruched the top of the dress, 15 inches is okay. For a bigger size, you may want to do about 17 or 18 inches so that your armhole, your underarm, can be well covered. So once you've done that, you also want to fold the sides before you start joining. So you're going to make tiny folds by the side on your sewing machine, the front, the back, you know, the 4 sides of the dress. You need to do that. So now, with the remnant of the fabric, if you notice when I cut, I made sure that the folded part was beneath so that it would be enough for me to cut my band. So now to cut the band, I'm just going to use the long length. I'm not taking anything from the length, and I'm going to fold the fabric into 2. So I'm going to have like 4 pieces. So I'm folding, and when I fold, I'm going to cut the strip of fabric I want to cut, or the band is going to be 3.5 inches wide. So by the time I stitch, I'm going to lose half an inch. So my band is going to be 3 inches after sewing. So I'm just measuring to make sure that the band is even. So now that is even, I'm going to cut. So when I finish cutting, you're going to notice that I'm going to be having 2 long strips. So it's like 36 inches one band, the other band 36 inches. So when you join them together, it's going to be 72 inches long. It's important that your band at the top is long enough to be able to give that belt effect. But if you don't want to add a belt, then just measure round your shoulder across your chest to know how much the length of the band you're going to be needing. So once you've cut your fabric, you want to join that together in the middle on your sewing machine to make a long band. You can decide to add fusible interfacing or what we call gum stay, or you can also decide to leave it just the way it is. It depends on you. So you can also, when sewing, make this middle part a bit narrower to be able to clip your shoulder better. Next, I'm going to cut the pocket. So the remaining pieces of material that I have, I'm just going to use that to cut a pocket. If you don't know how to cut and sew a pocket, I also have a video where I did a tutorial on how to cut and stitch your pocket to your dress. So you may want to check that out. So for cutting my pocket, I'm going to be using 8 inches wide and 10.5 inches long. It's important that your pocket is long enough or deep enough so that it's functional, because if it's not deep, it won't keep things in. All right, so now I've stitched the pocket to the dress, to the both sides, and I folded the side, the armhole. You need to fold that. So I've done that as well, just a tiny fold, like 1/2 inch. And I've also stitched on a loose stitch and pulled the thread to form the ruching or the fronce, the gathers I want on my dress. If you don't want the gathers, it's fine. But if you want it, you can also have that. But what you need to do is, after ruching the top of your dress, you want to take the measurement. You want to retake the measurement before you start adding your band. So like I said earlier, this particular dress, I use 15 inches width. You can do 15 or 16, it's fine. And this will serve a size 12 to a size 16. But from a size 18 to 22, you may want to do 18 inches wide at the top. So I'm just checking and make sure that if you're going to ruch, then it has to be centralized. You don't want the gathers moving to one side. It needs to be properly done. So take your time and do it right. If you don't want the back to be ruched, it's okay. You can leave it flat. Just make sure that it's smaller than the front when you cut. For your gather thread stitch, you may do double stitching or you can do 1 stitch. I did 1 stitch. So if you do double stitch, it just makes it firmer. So I'm now cross-checking to make sure it's central. So it's fine now. Now that's my band. So I stitched it already. So for the side that is closed, what I used was 10 inches wide. Okay, if it's a smaller size, you can do 9, and if it's a bigger size, you can do 12. It depends on your arm, how wide your arm is. So you apply the concept of your normal off-shoulder cotton to this. So for me, what's comfortable is 5 to 5.5 inches. So if you want it loose, not too tight, you can do 5.5 on one side, 5.5 on the other side of the joining. So that gives you 11 inches for the side of the band that will be closed. Then in between also, I had to leave an opening for the front to attach the front piece and to the back. Then the sides of the belt or the band, I had to close it to form like a belt. So I close the sides like you can see. So the openings you have, one opening is for the front, the other opening is for the back. So if my opening is 15 inches, the dress in front, the wideness or the width is 15 inches. So I left a 15 inches opening. If your width is 18, you want to do also 18 inches opening. So now I'm going to turn that belt inside out. And after you must have turned it inside out, you want to give it a good press. So I'm using my scissors. You can use anything that works for you to turn that in. So I've done that and I gave it a good press. You can see it's flat. So you can see the opening I was talking about. So I have two of those openings. So one goes on the front block and the other goes on the back piece. So it's really simple. So I'm just going to stitch onto the dress, holding half an inch. Remember, is the band we cut was 3.5 inches. So half an inch is going to go in for the sewing. So the band will now become 3 inches. You can get a pin and just pin that on before you stitch, so that you are able to verify and make sure that it's perfect before sewing. You don't want to sew and then you lose again. So you see, I've done that. So one of the sides is closed, and the other side is open with the belt. So all you need to do is to tie the belt on you, okay, taking into consideration the inches you left on the other side. So I'm going to tie until I have 5.5 inches, or you can wear your dress and then you tie it on and see the way you're comfortable with. So once you've tied it, you don't need to keep on tying. The tying is just to create its own aesthetic effect, because it's difficult sometimes when you wear the dress before you start tying. So tie, make it firm, then you can wear your dress. So thank you for watching and don't forget to subscribe. So till I come your way next, is bye.